Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in today on this actually lovely Sunday in Rochester. It's 53 degrees out right now.
Beautiful.
We got Dellenna in the house and Roxxi, and we're excited. Now, what I have as a kind of supporter for this week is More Than a Pretty Face. It's a charity campaign that I'm helping put together with Beyond the Pole, and we'll be collecting makeup, cosmetics products, new hygiene things, and all different clubs, and be giving it to all different charity organizations. And that's part of the reason we have you in house today. And I gave you some makeup when you came in.
Yes, thank you.
We collected it at Plain.
Dellenna doesn't need any makeup though. She's pretty beautiful.
No. But we came up with the idea that, it would help girls like getting job interviews, build up their self-esteem, or, if they're in domestic abuse, that they can cover bruises and just feel more confident.
Right.
And, everyone thinks it's a great idea. And you get all these samples and makeup kits. Like you get a free gift kit from Lancome and Clinique. And a lot of people don't like the colors and kind of throw them away, or samples. And we gladly will take them all, or even soaps and shampoos from hotels.
Don't throw those samples away.
Yeah, a lot of people could really use them, and it helps out. So we are, up to a lot of stuff going on and a lot of changes. Our show's going on to an hour starting next week. We have a new producer.
Nice.
It's going to be Edwin J. You might remember him from Life Without Shame. And he also does a lot of the stuff with West Road Traders, the pawn shop in Rochester, and for their TV show. So that's really great, and I'm excited. And, I want to talk to you more and hear about your organization. So we're going to go into a song that you picked out, and it's Alicia Keys' Brand New Me. And then we'll discuss why you picked it. And we're going to cut into that song. Hi, welcome back to Beyond the Pole with Katrina Lee, Roxxi Love, and Dellenna.
Hey.
Hi.
Hola.
And that was Alicia Keys' Brand New Me. Why don't you tell us why you selected that song?
When I first heard that song, it just brought me to tears because it really, I think I had about 9 years clean at the time, and it really spoke to me about where I was in this recovery process, basically walking into a brand new me. And I understand the song, I think, is about an abusive relationship, but I kind of equated it to the relationship that I had with the disease of addiction.
Right.
And the lies that I told and the excuses that I made and whatnot. And I'm not doing that anymore. So I'm just really grateful for a brand new me. That's like my theme song.
Oh,
So,
I love
beautiful.
that. That's great.
Yes.
A lot of us
inspiring.
probably appreciate that
Yes.
too, and went through abusive relationships or addictions. So how did you land in Rochester? I heard you have an interesting story.
I landed in Rochester, New York by way of a truck driver. I am from Minnesota, and a truck driver picked me up. I was in active addiction, and I crashed in the back of his cab, and he woke me up the next morning and said, "Where do you want me to take you, or do you want to come with me? I'll take care of you." And all I heard was, "I'll take care of you." So I said, "Let's roll."
That's
And I
really
never heard
awesome.
of Rochester, New York in my life. I've heard of Rochester, Minnesota.
Right.
So when
There's
I
a
got
lot of
here-
Rochesters,
right.
but yeah.
And this man told me on the way, he was an older gentleman, and he said, God brought you into my life to be my wife. And I'm like, okay, I have a connection with God too. And he didn't tell me,
Yeah.
can I say it? No, he didn't tell me crap. So take me to the nearest shelter, and at that shelter is kind of where I started my journey. I ended up relapsing.
Okay.
But when I went to jail for the second time for prostitution, I was not a very good prostitute because I was always getting caught. And the second time I went to jail, there was Spiritus Christi group that came into the jail. And they had I wanted to do something different, and they have a house for women returning to society from incarceration. So that was my opportunity to do something different, and I ended up going there. And that was the beginning of my journey, just surrendering and changing my life.
That's amazing.
That is quite a story.
That's awesome.
Beautiful.
Now, what was your drug of choice?
Anything that you had. Of course, it wasn't all the stuff that they have now.
Yeah.
I actually celebrated 11 years clean on Friday.
Wow.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Woo-woo. So some of the stuff they have now, I thank God, was not out back then. So pretty much meth, cocaine, heroin, crack, cocaine in any form, and marijuana, alcohol. Alcohol is a drug.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and a lot of pills. the opiates and whatnot. I would do one to come down off the other, and all of that mixing in the cocktails and stuff like that. So.
Yeah,
and sometimes they're just as easy to acquire.
Exactly.
Yeah, the pills are really easy. Even like a lot of girls are taking Adderalls and grinding them up and using them like cocaine now. And
that's the thing that people are understanding and discovering now is that Adderall is, I think, a chemical away from methamphetamine. I don't know if you've read into that at all, but I mean, if you actually look at the scientific properties, it's basically methamphetamine.
Yeah, they're finding different things to abuse. I know at the house there's been some trends of some of the women abusing gabapentin, kind of snorting that. And
what is that?
I haven't heard of that.
No, I haven't heard of that.
It's a drug that's prescribed to a lot of the women in recovery.
Okay.
I forgot what its originally prescribed for, but it
From
does
heroin,
also help with pain.
addiction, or
no,
just any
pain. It's
just
probably
any.
like Lyrica. I recently had a visit to the holding center in Erie County because it's something I actually didn't do and was proven innocent. But a lot of the people I was watching withdrawal that were suffering the most were coming off of Lyrica.
Yeah,
and they were clearly prescribed it. They weren't trying to abuse it or get a hold of it. These were people who had, like, you could see the scars from surgeries on their back and everything, and they were screaming at night. And
the withdrawals
it was horrible.
Are horrific, and you would think and withdrawing from heroin is bad, but I mean, the truth is the worst thing to withdraw from is alcohol. That is one of the alcohol and benzos are the two drugs that you can die from.
Oh yeah.
From
well,
withdrawing.
And that's the thing too, is those are the most okayed by government standards. I mean, it's pretty much encouraged practically to drink when you're not working to get through to the next week. And it's the same with opiates and the pills.
And the prescribed medication.
Yeah, and I mean, you literally have legally people handing it to you.
Exactly. And that's one of the problems that we're having in this, not just this community, but it's becoming an epidemic. It's always been an epidemic in the inner city, but now that it's reaching out to the suburbs, more Caucasian people are dying and being impacted. Now you're seeing commercials about it on TV, and just think about it. 3 years ago, you weren't seeing commercials on addiction, except for that guy who had a treatment, who was cured from addiction. And my personal belief, I'm always an addict. I'll never be cured.
That's what I found.
Because you get comfortable with this when it comes back to you.
That's what I found with a lot of heroin users is they will call themselves addicts for life.
Right.
Like me, like you said, you tried everything pretty much under the sun. I say the same thing. The only thing I didn't do was inject heroin.
Me too.
And the thing is, I could easily. I mean, if somebody offered me something, I would definitely have to leave the premises immediately because it is in your mind. But from what I've experienced from witnessing visually, heroin users or ex-heroin users is that they are addicts, and it's a physical addiction. It's not just a mental addiction. It is quite physical.
Yes. And one thing about, like, I believe in the disease model. So I have one disease with many symptoms. Yeah. And the important thing for me to remember is, even though I'm clean, the drugs is only one symptom of my disease. You talked about gambling before the show. Yeah. That's a symptom. And there's a lot of other behaviors that are symptoms, So, and that's what we try to help the women at the house with. They think that if they just put the drugs down, that's it, but it's kind of the perfect example I could think of is when you have a dope fiend and you put the dope down, you still have the fiend and the fiend behaviors to deal with.
You'll find something else. My ex was a really bad alcoholic, and then he would stop, and then he'd get obsessed with something. Like, he was getting a lot of pets. It was out of control. It was like a zoo. And then there was working out where it went into thousands of dollars on getting the top-notch equipment and that. And then he'd lose interest within 3 weeks and end up going back to the alcohol.
You said the key word, obsession.
Yeah, it was over the top.
The definition of addiction is obsession, compulsion, and self-centeredness. So, yes.
I actually like that you stated that now, the heroin has always been an epidemic, even if it's an epidemic in the urban community, where it's only affecting possible minorities. And now that it's actually making its way to the suburbs where you see mostly Caucasian culture, it's always been an epidemic. And it's actually a little disturbing that it takes that to be a thing. And on television and making the news that this is a problem.
To raise awareness,
Right.
a broader awareness.
I've been saying for years because I work in a lot of I sell clothes and dancer clothing. I go all around, and I work in the streets too late at night and counsel underage runaways.
Yes.
And so I was watching the heroin epidemic when it was where the girls were grinding down the pills, and then I watched it start 10 years ago, and I was in Erie, Pennsylvania. I was like, this is getting out of control, and I'd be kind of in the bottom. And I warned and said it got worse and worse and worse. And I think with the adult industry, it's really out of control.
Yes.
Because they don't hit a rock bottom that easy. There's always guys willing to pay or help them out or support them or money.
And
that
peer
they can
pressure
get.
from the girls that are working. And it can
And sometimes they just want to belong and be a part of something.
Right.
You know? And I mean, I think it's just
or they're
human
already
need.
on the drug too and
Exactly.
falling into the industry. But every week I'm losing at least one person in my life in the industry.
Right.
In the beginning, it was fun.
Yeah.
It was fun in the beginning, but then it became a habit. And then after that, it was a way to survive. I needed it to survive.
Right.
So it's like you cycle through these stages. And in the beginning, we can stop what we want when we want and everything. And then in the end, it's like I was using against my will. I wanted to stop, but I could not stop.
You might see, and
make
that's
a
what
great
I
point
work
with that. Actually, most heroin addicts, they end up not having a problem with their own addiction, and over time it consumes them so much that they actually start speaking out against themselves on it.
Almost all of them, like I was saying, I work at the clubs and massage parlors, and none of the girls really want to be there. They don't want to have sex or intercourse with 10 different guys every night, and they're drained, and then they have no money the next day, and they're back there. And most of these girls aren't really with a pimp or anyone, but they're with like a guy that they feel they're in a relationship with, and they think it's healthy, and they don't really understand.
Right.
So that's what, like with your group that you guys work with, and what I want to do with my charity organization is where women learn to respect their bodies, have healthy relationships, identify different
That's
things.
some of the things that we work on. Well, let me, Spiritus Christi, Prison Outreach has some houses. They have a men's house and a women's house. And the women's house has been around in the Rochester community for the longest. And the only requirement to get into the house is you have to have a criminal history.
Okay.
And unfortunately, 98% of the women that have come through there since 2002 struggle with drugs and mental health.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of the women that come there, myself, when I went there, I basically slid under the door. I was so broken, so fragile, and so vulnerable, and just desperate. And so I had no self-esteem, no confidence, and low self-worth. And so that's how these women come to us, and we have to build them up. And unfortunately, when they come from prison, because prisons aren't rehabilitation, they're punishment.
Right.
Yeah.
So they come to us even more traumatized, and then they're released from the incarceration with the same issue that led to their incarceration.
Absolutely.
Because it was never dealt with.
Because they met other people that encouraged or gave them ways on how to
Exactly.
hide or trick the system.
So this is how they come to us, and of course some of them have when they're institutionalized, and so we have to help them to change their thinking.
Right.
Most of all, help them change their thinking about themselves. So I really appreciate like the makeup that you gave, because that's key. Even though recovery's an inside job, because I know myself, I was a dressed up garbage can. I would dress up the outside, and I was a hot mess on the inside. But today I can honestly say that my insides match my outside.
And that's great. And you are beautiful inside and outside.
She does exude that.
It's
So we
amazing.
try to help the women with that. And we had it's funny because we had a salon at the house in the basement, a little room.
Yeah.
And so we had someone doing their hair, cutting, doing their nails and everything. But these women come with gifts. They're so talented, so there's always a hairdresser or a nail technician in the house. So they were never signing up for the salon, so they come with all these many gifts. They don't even realize what gifts that they have.
Yeah, and you help encourage them and help them find
Exactly.
it.
Yes.
I love that because even I see with the dancers and stuff, I try to encourage, like a lot of these girls are real creative and they make jewelry and stuff. And I'm like, let's put them in the stores. Let's try to build up something you have. And,
focus on their strengths.
Little by little, you don't do something for yourself and build it up.
I actually want to say that it's pretty cool that you guys actually have a house both for the women and the men, because this isn't a one-sided issue. This is, both sides.
Unfortunately, men have more resources in this community. I don't want to go on that rant.
Yeah.
But because they're a public safety issue.
I'll go on a whole thing. But
yes. But the women's house was first, and then the men's house came. So because it's the same issues, but they deal with the issues differently.
Right.
And speaking of heroin addictions and everything going on, we're actually going to play our next song is Savoy Brown, Needle and Spoon. All right, welcome back to Beyond the Pole. And we have Dellenna in the house. Belle just arrived, Roxxi Love, and myself, Katrina Lee. And we are also just going to remind you to help donate to our cause, More Than a Pretty Face. You can drop off donations at more locations. They're going to be listed on Facebook, but also right now at Playmates in Byron, New York. And why don't you tell us, Dellenna, a little bit more about your organization?
Well, as I said, we provide women housing. We provide women with a second chance after they get released from incarceration. We help them to get clean so that they can stabilize their mental health issues and become productive members of society. We produce taxpayers in this community. We have an 84% success rate, and
That's fabulous.
We connect the women to inpatient, outpatient, whether it's for chemical dependency, mental health. We provide them with stable housing. We teach them the skills to maintain the stable housing, because HUD has this thing, they just want to throw people in the housing, but if you've never had a house, you don't know that, I got to pay the RG&E.
You don't have the connections.
Right. So we teach them all of that. And we definitely, again, appreciate the donations of the makeup.
We're going to keep getting more of them. We're just keep it as an ongoing campaign, like it never is going to end. Just keep going. So.
And if you would like to donate, we are on Facebook at Spiritus Christi Prison Outreach. And you can also Google Spiritus Christi Prison Outreach and check out our wish list and everything. And
that'll be on Beyond the Pole on Facebook as well, information to find the Facebook.
Yeah, it'll be facebook.com/Beyond the Pole Radio. And also you can listen to us anytime on rochesterfreeradio.com/podcast and listen to us on 106.3 WRFC.
Thank you so much.
Let's see. Why don't you go talk?
And I have a special guest on the show. This is a dear friend of mine I've known for a very long time. Her name is Belle, and she is a survivor addict of heroin, and she would also like to say a few things on the matter in her story.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me here, and I love you. I guess let me start by saying obviously, everybody knows heroin basically is the main drug that's an epidemic, not just here in Rochester, everywhere you go, every city, every state. It's killed and taken many lives, and it is horrible, and it breaks my heart, and something needs to be done about it. Something has to be done about it. Words need to be spread. People need to talk, and the stigma surrounding it needs to quit. I mean, it is a disease. It is a disease, and I know this for a fact because I've suffered from it since the time I was 3 years old, where I was diagnosed with pancreatitis, where doctors would feed me nothing but pain meds because that's all they can do. And then, of course, that triggers your brain to, I want to feel good, so I'm in pain.
You need more, so you're gonna
exactly.
So
as
you got used to the level at a young age, so you had to keep looking for a stronger high.
And the needles were never a problem for me either because of that. So, and then I don't know. On top of having a rough life, my dad left when I was 2. My mom put me in a foster home when I was 16, and her and my sister moved away. I was very lucky and got put in a wonderful foster home where I stayed. But
that's great. You usually don't hear that. That's amazing that you can say that. You're one of the few.
Very few. But unfortunately, my foster dad died of cancer the next year. So then everything went to shit.
No swearing.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
She's that's
fine. No.
And everything went downhill after that. I think my foster mother knew that things were going on, but what could she do?
Well, let's talk about some positive good things. So how long have you been sober?
I am going on 10 months now, May
That's great.
12th.
That is a miracle.
Yeah.
You are a miracle.
To get to 10 is really impressive, especially off heroin, and especially with the background that you have other things that you're fighting with that can lead you to want to use. So, I mean, we applaud you.
Yes, absolutely. She's actually been really lucky. One of very few I've noticed that has somebody in her life that came into her life randomly and has been a huge support and is another hero in the situation.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about
Cameron?
Yeah.
Of course I will. I met him at a Starbucks on Monroe and told him my story and never judged me, not for a second.
Aww.
And his dad died when he was 7 of a heroin overdose. And for some reason, I could not understand why this guy wanted to be with me. But he's an amazing person, and if it wasn't for him, I know for a fact that I would be dead. And I don't know. So
it sounds like he's amazing, and I think that non-judgmental component is so important.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think
So
he really
important.
probably appreciated and understood what you're going through because he
Right.
watched his father suffering
Right.
and struggling.
Right.
So, like,
Right.
he was like an angel there to help guide you. And
Definitely.
a sober face, instead of using with you, help you stay sober and away from it. And
Definitely.
we applaud you,
yeah.
but we have to cut our show out. And thank you for listening to Beyond the Pole, and tune into us next week.
Thank you.
Thank you for everyone.
Yeah, thank
for
you.
coming in. Thank you.